Friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. The floodgates of the new fragrance releases have officially opened. 2026 is gonna have just a boatload of new releases hitting us right at the beginning of the year. And one of those first ones is this Scandal Elixir. Because everybody at Jean-Paul Gaultier, they were having a good old time and they sat down the pipe and they went, wait a second. Are you telling me that we did Scandal Intense and Scandal Absolute, but we didn't do an Elixir yet? Johnson, write that down. Scandal Elixir. Do it. And then they did. And it is right here. Scandal Elixir. Now, I did have to order mine from Europe. So if you're in the US right this minute and you need to get it, you're gonna have to do the same thing. But I'm assuming it's gonna pop up at discounters before too long. You know the drill. But if you're like me, you can go on to many fine stores such as eBay and scoop it up. Also Sabina. So here's the question with this one that I had. Is it going to be better than last year's? Because really what happened is it got better each year. The original Scandal, nice. Scandal Parfum, double nice. Absolute, perfect. And then Intense, and it was like, it's okay, it's all right, it's okay. So we had kind of this deal, right? So which way does the curve go? Back up, or do we keep going down? And that's what we're gonna talk about. I'll have this linked in the description below. As I said though, if you're in the US or Canada, then you're probably gonna have to order it from Europe. And if you're in Europe, I think you're good to go, depending on which country. I'm sure it's not available in every single country there yet, but pretty soon, because it's available at least in Spain. That's the start. Oh, and France. Shout out to all you guys in Europe, hope you're doing well, and also just actually shout out to everybody. You know what time it is, bruv. It's time to take a look at the presentation. First, the fuzzy box. Just a real quick shout out to the place that I am from. Just super quick. There's gonna be like 2 of you who are from the area who are gonna be like, ah, I know what he's talking about. There is a gentleman's club. It's called Fuzzy Holes. Huh? That's real, that's actual. This fuzzy box is reminding me of that for some reason. I don't like a fuzzy box. We have on the front of this box the name of the house, the name of the fragrance, the size and concentration. 50 mil, it is a parfum. It's always been like this, but I still gotta say it. I hate fuzzy boxes and fuzzy bottles. They don't need to be fuzzy. Stop making it this way, it's weird. When I pick up my fragrance bottle, I don't want it to feel like it's got some kind of very cheap Walmart brand fake moss growing on it. Just no, stop. On top of the box, it says Scandal. Nothing on the sides. On the back, a QR code. It says scan to discover the Scandal universe. And I am 99% sure that's just gonna take me to the Jean-Paul Gaultier website. Let's check. Error 404. I don't know if that's because I'm in the US or if they just don't have that set up correctly right now. On the bottom, the ingredients, the badge code, the barcode, badge code 52872, and now the bottle. Actually, this one is really interesting in the sense that the bottom of this bottle has a golden gradient, so it's almost like the bottom is the Absolute bottle, Scandal Absolute, but then it turns into a gradient to clear at the top. So it's like partially Absolute, partially clear. As usual, you have on the front the name of the fragrance, you have the little Jean-Paul Gaultier crown cap. On the bottom, etched into the glass, you're gonna find your information, including your badge code. Cap, of course, does click into place. It has a little Jean-Paul Gaultier on the inside of the cap, and then also on the atomizer. And what say you, we go ahead and do a few sprays. Here we go. I said a few, so I had to do 3. Atomizer is solid, as always. Not pressurized, but still gets the job done. And this bottle is an absolute fingerprint magnet. I picked it up for 2 seconds, take a look. So when you're not wiping the bottle off constantly, it's gonna basically look like that. But that's why you have a handy dandy microfiber cloth, so you can do this right here, good as new. And while this one is only available right now in Europe, when it does hit discounters, you can save even more money. How's that with codes? Specifically, I want to highlight the codes for JOMASHOP have changed. Also have a whole bunch of different codes for stores like the Perfume Box, Fragflex, and more. So anytime you shop at those stores, use those codes. All right, Scandal Elixir. How does it stand up? Is it true to the Elixir name, which typically means a few different things? 1, better performance. 2, bolder. 3, more attention grabbing. 4, more expensive. I don't like that last one. That's a bad one. Well, they have hit us with the dumbed down note breakdown here, just 3 simple notes, but one of them is very interesting, which is the top note of black cherry. The other notes here, patchouli and tonka, which are much more standard. And this one does open up with that black cherry. Very noticeable. It's kind of like a semi-dusty black cherry, but it's immediately arresting and it sets the tone as soon as you spray this on. Now, it is not a cough syrup or candy tart, you know, ultra sugary type of cherry. If that's what you're expecting, that's not what this is. So if you go into it expecting, you know, like Tom Ford, how they've done some different cherry fragrances where you spray them on and it is a blast of sugary, intense cherry. If you go into this expecting that or wanting that off the top, probably gonna be disappointed. Instead, it's a little more restrained in terms of how that sugary aspect comes across. So instead of being overtly syrupy or headache inducing or cloying, you get something that is better blended and surprisingly sophisticated. It also has a light sparkle to it off the top and like a little gourmand lean. And it has a hidden aromatic facet to the fragrance. So even though that's not an official note in here, or official notes, I should say, the aromatic vibe that this one has, the aromatic edge, is gonna tie it in with the other Scandal fragrances that came before it. So you're gonna get a touch of mintiness in here, not a huge blast, but just a little bit, and also some anise as well. So you have those working together in this fragrance. And that's gonna help keep it a little bit crisper, and it's gonna help with that classiness, as I said off the top. It keeps it from going too far down this sweet path. And as well, that's kind of how the cherry works in here. So the best way to think of it for me is that the cherry is sitting in the mix instead of on top of the mix. So if you're talking about music, right, the cherry is sitting right in between everything else. It's all working together instead of being like right above everything and cutting through everything really strongly. That type is more, as I mentioned, the Tom Ford style, where you get that cherry that just slams you immediately. This one instead, you have that black cherry kind of melding together with all the other notes. It has more of a dark sort of fruitiness to it, which makes sense because again, the note is technically black cherry. And it's not that it doesn't stick out at all. I don't want you to think that, you know, you're gonna smell it and be like, oh, there's absolutely no cherry here whatsoever. My wife clocked it immediately. The second she smelled this, she was like, oh yeah, cherry. But it's just more, as I said a couple times, refined, less earth-shatteringly syrupy. You also have underneath everything tonka, a creamy vanilla sort of sweetness. Again, not overdone, but you can pick that up pretty much right away, and that carries over into the mid as well. And that cherry actually creeps along for a while. That cherry lingers. Because a lot of times with fragrances that have fruity notes or nuances, they fade pretty quickly. But this one has stamina. So it's sort of a trade. You know, a lot of fragrances that do have a big blast of cherry or pomegranate or something like that. I don't know why I said pomegranate, but you know what I'm saying. Fruit notes like that, they'll hit hard and then 10, 15, 20 minutes later, they lose a lot of that gusto. This one doesn't really punch you in the face right away, but it just lingers and it lingers and it lingers. Through the mid, you get a little bit of a floral cleanliness, kind of along the edges of the fragrance. And those floral notes, those nuances, they work hand in hand with the warmer, sweeter aspects of this fragrance. And so while I wouldn't call this a fresh scent, it has fresh aspects to it. It has this sort of polished, at times lightly airy quality to it that keeps it from getting too stuffy. Another thing with this one is you head through the mid, if you smell it up close, you'll get like a little touch of powder, little touch of creaminess, and also a slightly spicy edge, kind of at the same time. So you got a lot of different things going on as it heads through the mid. And to me, it makes this one come across in a different style to Scandal Absolute. It feels maybe a little more grown up compared to Absolute, not as heavy on the sweet aspects. It comes across more controlled, not as syrupy, and undeniably sexy. Into the deep dry down, the cherry, that black cherry note, you can still pick it up there, nice depth. A faint waft of smokiness kind of in the background. And while it does have this almost deep woody base to it, it's never really a woodsy fragrance. So there's patchouli in here. There's no earthiness, okay? No dirtiness. It's completely clean for me in terms of how the patchouli comes across, but it has this woody aspect to it. And that's what all the other notes are just laying on top of the entire time. So it's something that never really screams for attention, the woods in here, but they're always there, just kind of like filling in the gaps. And again, the way I think about that is just like a musical spectrum, you know, it's kind of plugging in the gaps in the bass of the fragrance. And in the dry down is yet another place where you can see that this one has shifted away a little bit more from what Scandal is compared to most of the other flankers and the original. Instead of that caramel, you know, that sticky sort of sweetness that some of those fragrances are more well known for, this one leans further away from that. Instead, you have that deep, fruity sweetness from the cherry. Again, not sugary, not overdone. You have a little creaminess, that classy aromatic edge, that's still there. You do have the vanilla sort of tonka vibe, you get that here, but it doesn't have like all the additional sweeteners on top of it that some of the other fragrances do have. It maintains the classy aromatic edge and also introduces that touch of creaminess, that little hint of powder and a touch of smoke also. But again, that smokiness way in the background, you have to kind of go sniffing for it, and it balances things out nicely with, as I mentioned before, that fresh aspect that it has. So it keeps a lot of the Scandal DNA, but it does its own thing to the point that I would say this is probably the most unique of the Scandal flankers, for whatever that's worth. In terms of seasonality, I'm sure all of you already know, but more of a fall winter time fragrance, also more of an evening leaning fragrance, but you could use this during spring, especially early spring when it's still kind of chilly, and during the day as well. And in terms of projection and longevity, this stuff sticks. I sprayed this on first thing this morning, so about 6 hours ago as of when I'm filming this video, and I can still easily pick it up. And in my other wearings for this one, it has lasted a long time. So longevity, no problem. Projection, really good as well. But it's not really that type of projecting monster that can come across uncouth. Oh. What I mean is it projects really well without being obnoxious. Now, I guess you could technically get it to that point if you spray too many times, but for any normal person out there, this hits that sweet spot where you don't have to worry about the performance, but at the same time, also don't have to worry about giving people headaches. So overall, where does this one slot in the hierarchy of Scandal fragrances? How good is it compared to the ones that came before it? For me, it is really good. Great way to start off the year, and also not even really redundant, with the caveat that it is in the same line and you are still gonna get tonka in here, you're still gonna get that kind of aromatic feel, even though they don't have that as an official note, you're still gonna get it here. So it is still a Scandal, but it is different enough from the other Scandal fragrances that if you're a fan of the line, you're not gonna get this and be like, oh, it's 85% the same as that one. For example, the Parfum edition is way closer to the Eau de Toilette than this is to, say, Absolute. So for me, not redundant, and it easily clears Scandal Intense. This is much better than that one. And also to my own taste, it clears the original, it clears the Parfum, which puts this one right up there with Scandal Absolute. To me, it's basically 1A, 1B. I've spent more time with Scandal Absolute. I've worn Scandal Absolute a lot more than this one, obviously. And that one has been my favorite basically ever since it came out, which to be fair is not that long ago, but still. But over time, and by time I mean this winter, this one is going to immediately slot into my rest of winter lineup. I'm gonna get a lot of use out of this fragrance, and even though it's one of the first ones of the year, I would be surprised if this isn't one of the best releases of the year. Hopefully it's not all downhill from here. That would suck. But we're starting off the year on a good foot with this one. If you want a grown-up, gourmand adjacent fragrance that uses cherry as a really interesting texture instead of as a sugar bomb, then you gotta check this out. It still has sweetness, it's just not that type that's gonna give you diabetes. So there we go, Scandal Elixir stuff is fire for me. Great release, keep your eyes open for it if it sounds interesting to you, or if you're a fan of the Scandal line, especially if you were let down by last year's release, because this one redeems it. I wanna thank you guys for hanging with me. Stay safe out there, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.